Hi! After a month-and-a-half journey, my client Donna recently switched from a Babolat Pure Arrow team to a Prince Ripstick 100. During the demoing process, I strung each racket with the same string setup and reference tension to ensure Donna could feel what the racket brought to her game. In other words, I removed the strings from the racket equation. Now that she has picked her racket, this is only half the journey. In this video, I'll share what I commonly recommend when clients buy and string two rackets for the first time. All right, let's get into it. When a client buys two rackets, as part of my service, I custom match both frames to be identical if it is needed. I'm taking the static weight here using a scale. Rackets off the shelf will not always be the same. I'm taking the swing weight measurement using a Babolat RDC. If there is a significant difference between the two frames, then I'll apply lead tape to the lower swing weighted frame to match the higher one. And finally, I'm taking the frame stiffness measurement. Not that I can customize that, but I keep that measurement in my client's file. My goal when custom matching two frames is to get the static weight within plus or minus 2 grams and the swing weight within plus or minus 2 units. Alright, so let's take a look at some frame specifications, and this is the Prince Ripstick 100 and the 300 gram model. And I have 3 of the rackets listed here, including the demo that Donna has been using, along with the 2 that I just measured. And racket number 1 will have a white label, and racket number 2 will have a black label. Now, I didn't know ahead of time what to expect in terms of the specifications. So let's take a look now to see what this reveals here. And in terms of the static weight, this is in grams. You can see that the weight matched up really well. I mean, this is within 2 grams if you consider this one to this one. And typically the manufacturing tolerances, from what I've seen, is usually within plus or minus 4 grams. So that's really good here to see that come out that way. Now the swing weight is where there was a little bit of a difference here. So you can see that the demo racket came in at 292, and if you take the highest one here, racket number 2 at 301, so that's a difference of 9 units, and that's as large of a range that I'll see on a racket, well, a Prince racket. So that's plus or minus 4 or 5 if you're considering the range there. So this is probably one that just ended up on the lower end and this one on the higher end. But the good thing is that these two are almost identical. So that's something that Donna will appreciate, that at least the rackets, even though they're a little higher, they'll be the same. And finally, we have the stiffness. And as I mentioned, this is something that I cannot change. But again, you'll see how closely they are in terms of the stiffness. And if we're talking about manufacturing tolerances, I've seen a difference of about 3, maybe 4 at the most, but again, these are within 1, so that's good to see. So now that the rackets are pretty close to being identical, I'm taking these two now. I won't have to actually customize these rackets because of the fact that the weight, the swing weight, are almost matching, and it's within that plus or minus 2. Now, if I did have to customize these rackets, I did another video where I matched 2 new frames, and I'll leave the link down below. But in the case of these 2 rackets, I'll leave it as is. So basically the racket, or I'm sorry, the frame is now removed from the racket equation. So I'll get into the stringing and explain that next. Alright, so now that I finished stringing both of the rackets, let me reveal the strings first. And I went with Prince Lightning Pro 17 on the mains, which is a synthetic gut, and Prince Vortex 18 in a polyester string. So that's the mains and crosses. And I strung the demo racket with the same strings, and I went with a tension here at 50-48. And what I wanted to focus on was the DT, and I was shooting for mid-30, so I was able to get a 34 DT at this tension with this string setup. So I have the 2 rackets here now, and I wanted to show you racket 1 first, and this is the one with the white label. And the tension, I went with a reference tension that was 2 pounds lower on the mains and crosses. So you can see that at 48 and 46. The string bed deflection came out at 49. I just used that as a reference, but really again, it was a DT that I was focusing on. So this came out with a 33 DT, which was good, which is what is to be expected when you string it lower. And then finally on racket number 2 with the black label, I went with a tension that was higher, 2 pounds higher than the demo. And I got a string bed deflection, which was higher. And the dynamic tension, DT, came out at 35. So that was perfect because I have 34 here and I have now one that's lower and one that's higher. So let me explain the rationale behind this. Remember earlier when I mentioned in the demoing process, I removed the strings from the racket equation? Well, instead, it's the frame now being removed from the equation, and it's the string tension's turn. So what I want Donna to do, the goal is to hone in on the ideal DT that would bring the most out of her game. Donna is an avid tennis player and she does work out and plays regularly. So I hope to get back to her in a couple of weeks to see how she's doing, and I hope I can do an interview with her. All right, so I got Donna here and she agreed to do this interview, so thank you, Donna.
My pleasure.
So in this racket journey, I explained to you folks already, but I just wanted to brief Donna on it, that I had her try 3 demos. She started off with the ripstick in the lighter version. And then you kind of liked that at first, right?
I did enjoy it. It was real light and lively and easy to swing, so I did enjoy that racket.
So then I had Donna actually try a heavier racket because I felt like she could handle it. So then she went to the ripstick in the 300-gram racket.
I liked the acceleration I got on the swing of the racket. I really focused more on my body position, let my arm just fly over and finish up over my shoulder, and I felt like the weight of that racket made it may sound counterintuitive, but it made it easier. I just let the physics of it kind of whip over my shoulder. So I really liked the kind of the power and spin I got off that second racket better than on the first racket.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That what you're describing is called plow through.
Plow through.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So that's when you have weight in the head and you just swing and it kind of almost slingshots forward and it helps you with the follow through. So it yeah, what you're describing is totally accurate. But just to make sure, I had her go back to the lighter weighted racket, but with the conventional grommets. So this is the Tour 100 in the 290 model, just to make sure that the racket that she was trying was going to really be the best for her game. So did you notice anything when you went back to a lighter racket? With
yeah, I almost felt that the lightness of it made me move my arm a little bit more than I needed to. I was sort of thrown off. I liked the weight. It just made it easy to come up and down and through. And the lighter racket, I found that I was moving around a little bit more than I should, and then my ball wasn't quite as consistent, or I had more mishits, and I didn't like that feeling. So, but I was willing to try it, and then when I went back to the other one, it was like, oh, that's the racket. I went back to that nice little consistent stroke.
So in the end, of course, you folks know that Donna picked the ripstick in the heavier version. And again, what I did is I strung all the rackets with the same string setup at the same tension so that she really could feel what the racket was doing in this process. But the second half was for her to try her brand new rackets with 2 different string tensions. So I didn't really tell her what the tension were, but I mean, it's written on here, so I don't know if you paid attention.
I actually did not peek because I wanted the test to be not what my brain would think, oh, I'm going to hit a certain way, because I know. I just didn't look and just decided to try it blindly.
Oh, good. All right. So, but I did label one in white and one has a black label, as I showed you earlier. So maybe we could talk about the 2 rackets, starting with the one with the white label, because that's the one you actually hit with first.
Right. I started with this racket, and as I was hitting with it, I liked the spin. I mean, I'm 5'1", so spin is my best friend out on the court to get the height over the net. And I really enjoyed the strings, and I think a lot of it too is I really enjoyed the racket. So I was pretty happy with that string pattern. I thought I was playing really well with it. So this way I thought was a really happy match for me.
Okay. And then she did try the higher tension racket with the blue black label, and then what did you think about when you switched to that?
Well, it's interesting because when I switched, I really liked I felt like I got a little more pop and power on my shots, and I wasn't sure why, or if it was just like, oh, I'm just imagining it. So today when I played with my friends for a couple hours, I kept switching from one racket to another, and served with it and volleyed and did a variety of things. And I actually enjoyed the second string pattern a lot too. I liked both, but for whatever reason, I think I gravitated to the second string pattern a little bit more. I liked the power and spin I was getting off of it. So yeah, and that's just, and I don't know if that.
And you did switch back and forth today, right?
I did. Yeah, I mean, both felt really good, but I felt like when I went to this string, I was just, well, it could be I was playing a little more aggressively with this racket because I'm thinking, wow, maybe it's more powerful. But I definitely felt that the spin and the things I was able to do with it was nice. I mean, it's close. It's not like a big, massive difference. And I'd almost like during a match maybe go between the two rackets depending on how I'm hitting that day, because with tennis, you know, sometimes the backhand goes on a vacation for 15 minutes, and then I switch to the other racket. So I enjoyed both, but I think the second one was the one I kind of leaning towards.
Okay, so what I did was the demos that I strung for you was right in between these two, and I purposely strung that one tighter.
Okay.
By 2 pounds, and this one lower by 2 pounds. So there's actually a 4-pound difference between the two. The goal of today is for you to decide what you want to do going forward, and there's 5 options.
Okay.
So let me give you the 5 options, because there's no right or wrong, because it's all based on what you feel like would work best for your game. So option 1 is to go with the lower tension.
Okay.
String them both at the same tension. Option 2 would be go both with the higher tension.
Okay.
Option 3 is if you're not sure, just go right down the middle and go back to what's in between the two.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There's
two more options though. Of course there is.
So option 4 is when you're not a string breaker and you have 2 rackets, sometimes it's better to have actually 2 different tensions. So based on how you're playing that day, if you want a little bit more control, or you feel like you're launching the ball, then go with the tighter strung racket.
Okay.
And if you feel like maybe I'm lacking a little power or depth, you can go with the lower one. So that'll be option 4. And then option 5 is stringing them both either higher or lower than what I did. But I think we're pretty close to the tension. It's just, I think now it's up to you to decide. What do you think will be the best? It's not like we're going to do it today, but you know, maybe in a couple of months, because Donna's been using these rackets for a month now. So.
Yes, these are new rackets for me, so I'm almost thinking the option, I forgot the number of the option, where it's 2 different tensions. Yeah. And then just depending on how I'm feeling or how I'm hitting, or just emotional attachment to whichever racket, which is what happens sometimes to that day, that might end up being the best option, because I liked both of them a lot, to be honest. I just sometimes felt better with the tighter tension, but it's nice to have the option with the other one as well.
Yeah, what I like to do is I have my set tension, and I usually start with the lower one, hoping that I can control it well enough that day.
Yes.
But then I think psychologically, let's say you don't win the first set or something.
Yes.
Then I'll switch the racket out, and maybe it'll help me. But I think a lot of it is psychological too. Like, okay, I got my secret weapon now.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go with this tighter one. So I like to think that it does help, especially if you don't break strings. I mean,
no, I'm not really a string breaker, but I always make sure when it's time to restring, just don't wait for the string to break.
Yeah.
Because you know when it's starting to change tension on you, is staying on top of it and getting them strung regularly. But I agree, because even today I was playing with 2 of my friends, and one serves really hard, and I just said, hold on, I'm switching rackets. I want to get these serves back, and I switched to this one. And I don't know if it was more of an emotional response, but I was returning well. So I'll take the emotional advantage all day long if I can get it. So
yeah, who knows? You could serve with one racket and return with
the other. Exactly.
So,
yes.
that's another. Okay, well, I like what you picked. So we'll just keep it as is. But I am curious to find out how much the tension actually settled down to. So
okay.
I have a device here. If you could hold this, I'm gonna grab it. We're gonna do a quick test. So
okay.
So I already did the test earlier in this video, so they already know what the initial readings were, but I'm kind of curious to see what it came down to. So this is the lower tension racket here. So what it does is that it sends vibrations into the string, and it measures the string bed stiffness.
Yeah.
But so that's not the tension at 24. So let's check.
Switch off.
So this should come out higher if everything checks out.
Okay.
So that was at 24, and yeah, so I should have showed you guys earlier. So yeah, that one's at 27 right there. But that's good to see that there is a difference still.
Yeah, and I definitely felt the difference.
All right, so in this racket journey of Donna's, where she tried out the rackets and she figured out which racket would work best for a game, then the second part where she figured out what string tension would work best, I think having it at 2 tensions, like you mentioned, is a good solution. Yeah, I think you made the right choice.
Thank you. All right, well, this is part of my racket journey, so I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to try out different rackets. It's the first time I ever have, and different string tensions, so I could kind of decide independently. First the racket, and then the string pattern separately. So I thought that was very helpful.
Thanks for watching.
Let your strings play. I know. Happy stringing.
Yeah, yeah.
Happy.
Thanks for watching.
Happy stringing.
Oh my goodness, we're not even doing our high fives properly. Sorry. Thanks for watching.
Happy stringing.
And let your strings play.